Ubuntu. Ubu. I often wonder what it was like when Ubuntu Linux first hit the shelves. Everybody had to be struggling with that name, and I'm sure there's a story behind why they would pick a name like that, but nobody questions the name anymore. It is the most popular Linux distribution because it's stable, powerful, probably one of the easiest distributions to learn when you're first getting into the world of Linux. And the world of Linux is huge. It's a massive server platform. My goal here is simply to walk you through how you can get into Ubuntu and configure it with static or dynamic IP address information, and walk through some of the common tools that we can use to test and make sure that IP address information is working on our network environment. Now, if you want to dive deep into Linux, and there's no better time because Linux is the world of the cloud. It's replicatable, it's scriptable, it's powerful, and it's something that you should really start to learn. We have a ton of courses here at CBT Nuggets, most of them by Sean Powers. He goes deep into all kinds of stuff. Great, funny kind of guy. What my goal here is not only to show you the IP address information, but to get you a little oriented with how to speak Linux, which is half the battle. Let me show you what I mean. One of the reasons people get scared with the realm of Linux is because it's, hang on, let me type my password. There we go. It's, I can't do it at the same time. Hang on, here we go. It is really just a series of free-form text files that all come together. That's the number one thing to get used to if you're coming from the world of Windows or Mac or graphical interface environments. Is we're used to our bumper guards, just like bowling, right? It keeps you safe. It keeps you in the lane. It's a wizard. Ready to configure DHCP? Next. Okay, what are your IP addresses? Type the start, type the end, type the, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas in the Linux world, the DHCP server config, it's a text file. Your DNS config, it's a text file. Your Apache, you get the idea, right? Your network interface configuration that I want to show you right now is a text file, and even that has changed in the last few weeks. That's right, I said weeks, because I went to do it the way that I know how, and I'm like, oh, it's deprecated, and I had to call Sean Powers. I'm like, Sean, what happened? So this is Ubuntu 18.04 LTS, which stands for long-term support. That's one of the things I got to bite my tongue. There's so much I can tell you about Linux. There's always multiple variants of Linux. LTS is what you usually want to go for because it's the more stable, proven one, whereas the most recent release will be great, but it might be a little bit buggy because they're trying new features, new things, right? So 18.04 right now, today, in the end of 19, beginning of 2020, is the most stable version. And the first thing I do when I log into Ubuntu Linux, really easy to install, by the way, is I type in sudo bash, which immediately I've divided the camps in half. So bash is actually the command line interface itself that we're using to administer. Sudo is your way of becoming an administrator. So in a way, I've just given myself root access, admin access to where anything I type goes. The reason that's dangerous in the Linux world is because, like I just said, everything's a text file. So if you just delete the text files, you've corrupted your operating system. You've blown it up. So they put all kinds of safeguards in place to make sure that you don't do that. I just get frustrated with safeguards. I'm like, just get out of the way. Let me just configure stuff that I know how to configure. So we're into the Linux world, and I'll show you the old way. So first off, if everything's a text file, then we need a text file editor. If you want to be like commando in the Linux world, you want to learn VI. As a matter of fact, just go to YouTube. Go on, actually, CBT Nuggets. We've got plenty of training on VI. Learn the VI editor. I'm not going to use the VI editor. I'm going to use a little friendlier one called Pico. It's actually one I used back in college when I was a computer science major. Pico gives you real easy ways to navigate and modify the file. But before I edit a file, I'm so sorry. There's so much I want to show you. So can you just hang with me for like, I'm just going to add an extra 2 minutes right now just to get you oriented, right? So first off, command line. So PWD, present working directory, shows where you're at, and it is a file and folder structure, just like we're used to. So I'm in the home directory. So the root of the entire operating system is just the /, right? And I do an ls, that's my list command, so I can see what's going on. ls-l gives me a little friendlier listing to where I can see which ones are directories, which are the dark blue, which ones are actual text files, which are the light teal right there, right? You can kind of see a little bit about each one of those, the file sizes, and the page file is that swap image. So I'm going to go into, so let me show you the old way. I'm not even going to go into the directory. I'm just going to type in more, which displays a text file, /etc/network /interfaces, and then enter. That was the text file that we would use to change the IP configuration, to change a bunch of the interface configuration previously. Literally what we would do is we would type in pico, there's my text editor, /etc network. And by the way, this is like a Cisco router. If you hit the tab key, it finishes the partially typed command. So etc network interfaces, I hit enter. I'm in this little text editor where I can do things and all that, but you can see this file is completely commented out. And it even tells you right up there, it's like, hey, IF up down has been replaced by net plan. That's the new way. That's what I had to call Sean Powers and be like, Sean, why did they do that? Well, I can tell you why they did that, straight from Sean Powers, is because Ubuntu has come a long ways, and they have multiple ways of managing the network configuration. And they had challenges in the past because they kind of stacked different methods on top of each other. And if I went in and manually edited the text file, it would break stuff over here. So NetPlan, as the name implies, is the new way of doing it. And they've said, okay, all roads lead to and point to NetPlan. It's the same concept. You're still editing a text file. It's just in a different place. So watch this. I'm going to type in pico, and you remember I typed in sudo bash, so I have admin rights. I don't have to worry about, if I didn't type sudo bash, I would have to type in sudo pico, You have to type sudo in front of every command and type in a password to make sure that you have those admin rights. So I'm going to type in pico /etc, which is where it stores a lot of these configuration files, /net, and I'm going to hit the tab key a couple times. You see the one on the left there? NetPlan. Not network anymore. So I'll type in netplan and just hit the tab key. And there's one file in there called 50cloudinit YAML. Really. I hit the enter key and it comes up and says, hey, this is my file. As of right now, you've got one interface. It's ENS33. That's the Ethernet interface. And right now it's configured to use DHCP version 4, which is IPv4, a current version of TCP/IP before IPv6 takes over the world. And that's set to true. By the way, let me exit out of here and type in ifconfig. This gives you a view. This is like ipconfig on Windows. Mac uses ifconfig as well. You can see ENS33. My little hand right there. ENS33 currently has iNet 192.168.1.168. It got that dynamically from the DHCP server because it's configured to use DHCP. So I'm going to hit the up arrow right now and do pico, edit that guy. And I'm going to come in here, use my up-down arrows to navigate my cursor around. You see what I mean by free-form text file. I'm going to come in and change this to false. Enter. I'm going to space in here, and actually you can't use the tab key. You can, but it will actually come up and say, sorry, this file was edited with the tab key. You can't use tab key, and you have to go back and take out all your tabs and put in spaces. So it's not necessarily how many spaces, it's just that you're consistent with the number of spaces. So I'm going to type in addresses, colon, and then I'm going to put a bracket, 192.168, let's do 1.123, /24, which is the subnet mask. Previously, we would have to actually have a separate line for subnet mask. Now we can type it in all in one place. So I'll hit enter, hit the space key. Now I'll type in gateway 4:192.168.1.1. Now you might be thinking right about now, where are you getting all this from? Is this off the top of your head, Jeremy? No, it's not. It's going to be Google. Just go. I mean, every single time I do a static configuration in Linux, I'll usually go to Google and just be like, okay, here's the OS, because I'm not always using Ubuntu. Sometimes I'll be using a different platform, and it will tell you, here's the 5 prescripted ways that you can do it, and you follow one. If you live in the Linux world, you'll start remembering these things off the top of your head, but that's, again, why Google exists. It is what makes us look very smart. Now, one of the new features in this net plan is it allows you to type in name servers. Previously, you would have to put that in a different configuration area. Name servers, and then I'll put colon, and this is a different section. So I would go name servers, addresses, colon, and then bracket, just like the IP addresses above, 8.8.8.8, comma, 4.2.2.2, two public name servers that I can put. And by the way, this can use that same syntax. If I wanted to add multiple IP addresses for whatever reason, I'm hosting multiple services, I could put multiple IP addresses up here, as many as I wanted, assign it to that Linux instance. And there's more I can put, but that should give us a good configuration. So I'm going to hit Control X. Do I want to save? Yes, I do. And by the way, if I hadn't typed in sudo, that's where pain comes in. That's why I always type in sudo bash from the very beginning when I get into the Linux world, is because otherwise I start editing these things and I go to save and it's like, oh, sorry, you've only got read-only permission. And you're like, and you lose all your changes and you have to go in sudo edit the file. So just, that's why I'm sudo from the beginning. So it's there. I've put in the configuration in the text file, but it's not working yet. If I type in ifconfig, I can see that I still have that 192.168.1.168 IP address assigned, the dynamic one. So I need to type in netplan apply. Bam, super fast. Hit the up arrow, and now I've got that 192.168.1.123 IP address right there. Let's test it. I'm going to do a ping 4.2.2.2. Oh, so good. And just like Mac OS, Linux will just keep pinging until you hit Control C on the keyboard. Let's do a trace route. Trace. Okay, look at that. I'm typing in tab to finish it. There is no traceroute command. It looks like it's been replaced by the traceroute 6, which is the IPv6 version of traceroute. What does that tell you about things to come? They're actually starting to remove some of the IPv4 utilities by default. No worries, no worries. We can, but if you haven't learned this command on Ubuntu, you live and breathe it. Ubuntu is open source, so there's all kinds of utilities you can install into it using the apt-get command. I'm going to do apt-get install traceroute. That should work. Look at that. Bam! It's so great when you do that. It's like you just superpowered yourself. New tool. Now I can use it. Traceroute. And there we go. Now it's just normal traceroute. And I'll do 4.2.2.2. Bam! Linux, it's just so much faster than Windows and Mac. That's why it's such a stable operating system. It's so trimmed down to exactly what it's supposed to be. So you see how fast it went through that traceroute? So it went through, hit all of those, did also the reverse DNS lookup, so we can see that we're going through level 3 along the way in Los Angeles. It's kind of fun to see where you're going. So hang on, I just want to do that one more time. Let's go to 8.8.8.8, different place. Good. We're going to different places that I don't know where that is. But you get the idea. You can see that Google is the one who runs that DNS server at 8.8.8.8. So we can also do ARP. So I can do ARP-A and see what IP addresses have been resolved to MAC addresses. So far, it's just my gateway. So let me ping something else. And again, ARP-A. I now see the MAC address for that's a Ubiquity server, a video server that I have here. Running at my home. There's its MAC address, and it's storing those in the cache. That's good. NS lookup, so I can verify DNS is working okay. I'll type in server. And it's interesting, 127.0.0.53. Linux instances. What's the word I'm looking for? Linux stuff. You saw the same thing in the Mac world. Use a little DNS server within themselves. It's kind of like a little DNS cache. I don't like it because it kind of gets in the way of a lot of my testing, but it works. So I can type in here. That's why it says instead of the DNS server I put in of 8.8.8.8, it's using that one, but it's caching it. So I'll type in cisco.com. Sure enough, there you go. Got the IP address. Let's just put char.org. It's my last name. cbtnuggets.com, and it's resolving it. I'm translating those names to IP addresses. So life is good. I have to stop. I don't want to. I want to just keep going because there's so much I can show you in the Linux world. But I'm just here to do this. The process of configuring Ubuntu with static and dynamic IP addressing information. And you've seen that in the tools that we can use to test that. If you want more Linux training, just come on to CBT Nuggets. Go to the search field and just type in Ubuntu or Linux. You'll get tons of it. Also, there's another instructor here. You might have heard of him, Network Chuck. He's got such a huge social media presence. I even forget his name. His name's Chuck. I don't remember his last name right now because I just think Network Chuck. So he created a video for YouTube, got like 400,000 views in the first month of why you want to learn Linux, and he shows how to set it up with his kids on a Raspberry Pi and control stuff in your house. Really cool. So Linux is one of those roads you can just go down and just keep going. Don't look back, man. Well, I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.